Heather, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And choir, you were also gorgeous wherever you are out there. All right. Everybody breathe that in. This is such an emotional time for us. It's a time when we know we are touched by God's love. We can feel it. And every year we seek to understand it more and more. So we're going to look at it a little bit, maybe to open some awarenesses within us this morning. We've been working on trying to understand this month Jesus' mission with the people, and it was really to change the consciousness of mankind. Last week we talked about him opening the minds so people could see the possibilities, and then opening their hearts so they had faith, so that they could really receive the miracle healings and their conditions of life could be made better. But he couldn't connect them with God through themselves yet. Do you understand? They still looked to him. They had their thoughts and they had their faith, but they had faith in him. And his disciples, they went out and they did healings. But they knew their master was right there, maybe a city away, but still, their touchstone was still there. So all of this was a part of their learning to process and learning to exercise their beliefs. But it was time for them to really understand a direct connection with God within themselves. This would not be intellectual, nor would it be faith-based. It's not a faith-based connection. It's a very real connection. And that was what he was to do. So the possibilities were set, the hearts were open. And we today live in the gift that he gave. So sometimes it's hard for us to understand exactly what transpired in that moment in time. I was meditating and Spirit showed me a strawberry and a tomato. And there probably were days and times in our society where although the strawberry and the tomato existed, they were not consumed. I know at one time tomatoes were considered poison. I don't know about strawberries, but the idea that food was everywhere present, yet not able to be taken in because of the limited beliefs of man. And Spirit was trying to get me to see that was how it was in that day and time. God was everywhere present, but because of our limiting thoughts, we could not access the food that was around us. Does that make sense to your minds? All right. So we had forgotten that we were God's child. We had forgotten how to reach out to be fed by that energy of God's love. And it didn't matter whether we understood or not, God was still there. God was still all around us. So mankind was starving spiritually. Mankind was needing a way to touch within themselves that power of God's love. So he had opened their minds and hearts, and now he had to plant a seed so that they could connect. Patrick took us during Good Friday through the last week, and we got to hear all of the events of his journey. So I'm just going to go quickly over that last day. As you know the story, he was accused of blasphemy because he said he was the Son of God. And that was against the law. And just by that being against the law, you can understand how different our world is today. Can you understand that? Every one of us would be executed because we believe we're the children of God. But for that crime, he was. And I remember when I was teaching my seminary class, I asked God, why did he have to be beaten? I mean, I understand the public death. I understand that everybody had to know. But why did he have to be beaten? And the answer I got was that he had to be physically torn beyond repair. So there would be no doubt to any mind that he had actually made transition. So he walked through, holding the love of God through that final moment. And even when he was put on the cross, he held the energy of love. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Today you'll be with me in paradise. He sent out love to all who could receive it. And then at the point of transition where his soul let go, do you remember the earth quaked and the sun was dark? It was dark for several hours. And then a voice was heard from heaven that said, "It is done." No one that was there could not feel and know and see that in this moment, God's energy had been touching the earth. God was touching the earth. And in that moment, he left. And they say in the Bible, in the New Testament, in every scripture, that at the moment of his transition, when his soul left the body, the curtain in the Jewish temple that no one could pass but a priest, only on holy days, the curtain that divided the Holy of Holies from the outside temple, ripped. Symbolic of the energy, actually an outpouring of the energy, that God would no longer be separate from man. That the inner kingdom, the inner sanctuary, the inner place where people would understand would be accessible to all mankind. So the very death itself was a moment of God and man connecting. God and man connecting. We all know the story. He was put into the tomb. The soldiers guarded. And then nothing happened on the Sabbath. But the next morning, when the sun came up, I love it in the Aquarian. It talks about the white-clothed angels that marched around the tomb. And then a big angel came and took the stone and threw it away. Just hurled it away. And then the soldiers could actually see Jesus' body. And this is what it says about that. I wanted to share this one thing with you. They watched as Jesus opened his eyes and said, "All hail the rising sun, the coming of the day of righteousness." He folded his burial gown, his head bands, and his coverings, and he arose for a moment and stood beside the angel. The weaker soldiers hid their face. And then those who watched saw the body of the Nazarene transmute. They saw it change from mortal to immortal form, and then it disappeared. And that's what they witnessed. The whole idea of Jesus being put on the cross, his whole life was about love, was it not? Everything he said, everything he taught was about love. And what put him on the cross was the power of the world. The power of the world seeks to suppress love. It did in that day and time. Does it today? Mm-hmm. That may be an experience you have, it may not be, but I will ask you this. Even in our world today, are you rewarded for love? Does the world go, "Oh, you love really good. Let me give you something for that. Let me just honor you because you are such a good, loving person"? Or are we still honored and rewarded for our exertion of power, what we do in the world? Something for us to think about. Not only was he showing us the gentle love of God, he was also at this point demonstrating the powerful love of God. That love that was greater than the power of the world. Think about love. Okay. Jesus didn't just come back to life. He resurrected a body of perfection. It was one that could move about the earth. It could be physical. He could be seen. He could move about the earth. He wasn't limited by the earth. This was a demonstration that not only was God creator, but with God we are also co-creator. His human cells were Christed. And you know, when he first appeared to the girls in the garden, we all know the stories, right? He first appeared to his mother, then he appeared to Mary. And they didn't recognize him. Did you ever wonder about that? Have you ever met somebody that you haven't seen for a while and you go, "Whoa, I never would have recognized you"? Not because they're physically changed, but their energy has changed. They're not wearing the issues they wore when you knew them. Do you know we wear our issues? We wear our troubles. You can feel my troubles long before you see my face. You go, oh, that's Cindy. I recognize it. You know, I feel. When he appeared to them, he was no longer carrying his mission. He was no longer carrying his disciples. He was no longer carrying this earthly walk. He was vibrating in a state of pure joy, pure love, and pure peace. And that is why they did not recognize him. He appeared to Mary Magdalene, and she says, he says to her, why are you seeking the living among the dead? Your Lord has risen, as he said. And he said, now Mary, look, behold my face. He had to direct her to his face, his eyes, so she could see him. And then she knew it was him. She knew it was him. And then she ran to tell the disciples, and they didn't believe her. But then she found Peter, James, and John, and they went running to try to find him. And when they found him, they saw a stranger. He wasn't the man who had carried them. He wasn't the man who had their love wrapped up under his wing. He was a man who was now a divine man. Universal love flowed through him. Can you imagine the difference? A stranger. And the stranger said, I am. Then the disciples knew it was him. And he said, behold, the human flesh can be transmuted into higher form, and then higher form in matter of things manifest, and can at will take any form. I come to you in a form that is familiar to you. But he was bringing in pure love. How would you have wanted to connect with that in that moment? Pure love. Would it have scared you? We are taught not to trust it. Would we have gone to our power? Excuse me, I got to go to work. I got to go where I exert my power so I can feel comfortable. In the presence of pure love, how would we respond? Would we grab him and hug him and say, let me take you to dinner? You know, I got to hear everything that went on? Or would we be afraid? Patrick would take him to dinner. And he went. He appeared to them and he ate with them. Some of the disciples still didn't believe. They thought he was a ghost, an apparition. And those of you that have seen ghosts, you know they can appear very dimensional sometimes. They can appear quite touchable. So he allowed his body to take on a form that was familiar so they could touch him. And then he ate with them. He ate fish and he ate the bread. And then he would disappear. How metaphysical is this? How beyond the physical is this? And he said, I came to show mankind there is a pathway back to God. God created you. God created your bodies. You are co-creator. We are bigger than we know in this world. We are so much bigger than we know in this world. All right. Then he went to every master that had ever taught him. And he told them, I did it. I did it. He appeared to all the sages in all the different places in the world to let them know that he had resurrected his body. And let's not forget, when the angel came to the tomb, the energy of his cells was so open and receptive, the combination of the divine moving through the physical resurrected the body. It wasn't him scrunching really hard, trying to resurrect his cells. His cells had the belief, the knowing, and the energy of the Christ in them, so they could be touched. Think about any healing you've ever had. How many healings have we had? A lot. We relax. We relax our hold on the cells of our body and we say, God, I'm ready. And our cells breathe in the light. They breathe in the light and they become strong and they become different. They become healed. Take that, multiply it by a million, a billion. That is what happened in his body. His cells opened to such a degree because he knew he was the Son of God. All right. Spirit had regained dominion over matter with him. And everyone will tell you, as you read about this, this is probably one of the most difficult things for us to understand because we're still trying to look at a very celestial event from very human eyes. We still live in this world of matter. Our job is still trying to stay connected and live in that love. If we had been in the ethers that day, if we had been not in embodiment and been allowed to watch, what would we have seen? What beautiful energy would we have seen pouring onto the planet, pouring through him? All of the scholars say in his resurrection and ascension, there was a mystical baptism that covered the earth. The fact that a human being, human in all senses of the word, brought the love of God to this planet, lived the love of God, and then at exit took the love of man back to God, went through death, and resurrected the cells of his vehicle with God love, combining this physical and God. Do you see the circle completing here? We now have an extremely divine form. Because he did that, the pattern of resurrecting the very cells of your body is in the consciousness of the earth. Because one person did it, all can do it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a fact. The first person to climb the highest mountain may take, let's give them 2 weeks. The second person climbing that very same mountain climbs it in a week and a half. The next person climbing is a week. Because the path has been carved, because the energy is there, it lets us go faster and faster and faster because of the predecessors. We are always skimming time off of our races, are we not? The young men and women running today are 10 times faster than 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 years ago. Because we are carving a path for that acceleration of consciousness. He set up a path so that in the ethers there was the knowing of God. Physical, within the cells of the body, a knowing of God. So that any physical creature, human being, could breathe in and say, God. And the connection could be complete. Too esoteric? He set up a connection so that every heart could walk with God. So that every heart could heal, so that every heart could do everything I do, you can do and greater. And that was the gift. We don't know when it occurred. We don't know if it was at the resurrection or at the ascension. But at some point in that process, his energy bathed our planet with a new idea and a new vibration and a new truth. A truth that hadn't been available before. And all of a sudden, people woke up and knew they could eat tomatoes. All of a sudden, they knew they could eat the strawberries. All of a sudden, there was a knowledge within them that was not there before. At the ascension, he became omniscient, which is all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful, and omnipresent, which is everywhere present. Because he went to be one with the Father. I take my energy now, and I'm taking it back to the Father to be one with him so that I can watch over you. So I can be present for anyone who seeks me. I can be there to help you if you need me. I can guide you. And it doesn't matter how many people are talking to me. He's in the consciousness of God, omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. What a beautiful gift a light being of holy breath would do to give up our planet. I mean, what a beautiful gift is this? What a beautiful gift. I am with you always. You know, in our faith, we call forth our Christed natures to be fully present in our bodies, don't we? You'll hear me say that when I did the opening prayer. I ask that everyone's Christed nature be fully present in their bodies. Now, it's not that your Christed nature isn't present in your body, but your awareness of it may be dim. So as we call it forth within us, we are quickening the essence of the divine child of God that I am. Who taught me to do that? Who taught me? Jesus Christ taught us to do that. That was his path. You're the children of God. He taught us that. Follow me. Be like I am. I'm going to call forth my divine I am Christed nature, and I want to step forward in love. Every time we pray that prayer, we are accessing the energy of the pattern he left us. And we're pulling our own hearts into open gear. I want to be that love. I want to be that love, whether I'm rewarded or not. You know, whether anything happens or not, this is what I want to be. I want to be that. Don't you know we're connecting with that Christed light, and we're connecting with every person in the planet who ever loved God, who ever loved Jesus Christ? And what a great family to be a part of. Can you feel it? What a gift. And we live in that gift. We live and move and have our being in that awakened awareness that he gave planet Earth. And how much more is there that we can enjoy? Before he ascended, he said to his disciples, he called them, it was the last appearance before the final. And again, he is speaking to Peter, James, and John. And he says to Peter, Peter, do you love me? Do you love me, Peter? And Peter said, yes, Lord, you know I love you. And he said, then I want you to feed my sheep. That means I want you to honor the teachings and love the people. Feed them. Share your love with them. He called James over. He said to James, do you love me? And James says, you know I love you. And he said to James, protect my sheep. Protect them. Keep sacred the teachings, the path that I've given you. Keep it sacred. And honor everyone who is trying to walk that path. Then he called over John. He said, John, do you love me? And John said, yes, Lord, you know I love you. He said, feed my lambs. Honor the babies. Love everybody, whether they're there or not. Honor those tender people who may not have your knowledge or your wisdom. Take care. Honor them. So in these 3 commandments that he gave to faith, wisdom, and love, that's what the 3 men represent, he is asking us, just walk in the way. Just walk in the way. Honor what I have taught you. Honor what I have given you. Love the family. Love the people. Love each other. Love. Do you know what the price of love is? It's everything. It costs everything to love. But yet, what do you gain? Everything. You gain everything at a different level. And that spiritual love, when the love of our Heavenly Father, the love of our Father, Mother, our Creator, when that love moves through us, there is nothing better. And in that moment, you want for nothing. That is such a sacred, special moment in time. It's like eternity. Be with me now. Hold me in this energy. And then your Christ quickens, and then you hear the angel by your side going, okay, open your eyes, it's time to get back to work. You have more to do. You got things to do. You got to get out there. Want to be creative. Want to go love. Be the child of God. Let's go create this world that Jesus envisioned. Remember, he did not create a religion. He created a consciousness. A consciousness. Resurrecting your body, how simply metaphysical is this? How totally possible is this? You know, I can tell you, and I've told you before, if I can see a regular ghost, just anybody that happened to cross over, why wouldn't a master soul resurrect a body? Do you understand? Why is this so impossible? It is a reality. We are spirit, and if we keep our eyes on the love of God, we will be able to understand that beautiful energy that feeds us all, and how to truly walk in that love that Jesus brought to us. We are waking, we are understanding, and we are celebrating, because we're living in the gift. And the gifts that he gave was my peace I give to you, and my joy I give to you. So as we do our walk, we are assured the peace and the joy of his heart. How easy is this? All right. We have beautiful metaphysical understanding of part of what he did. We have spiritual knowing of the vastness. But the totality has yet to be revealed. And we will understand one day as we grow in consciousness. We'll be able to articulate it very clearly. But until that day, we have our assignment. Walk in love. Be love. Value the love of another. Value the love of another. Can we do that? All right, let's breathe and go within. Father, Mother God, I ask that your love just descend on this group. And I ask that we feel that beautiful presence of heaven touching earth. It doesn't have to be a big demonstration. It can be just in this moment. And I would invite each of you just to open your hearts. And as you do, feel the beautiful light inside you. You are God's child. I'm God's child. And I want you to feel the yearning to know your parent, your Father, Mother God. I love God. I love you. And as you feel that, see a beautiful column of light come over you that keeps you in your own sacred space. Love surrounding you, love within you. And now I would invite you to ask Jesus Christ to step forward. Just take a moment and look at his face. Begin to see and feel that love that he has for you. The Father's love moves through his eyes. His love moves through his eyes. And I want you to take his hand, and I want you to ask to feel the peace. My peace I give to you. Help me take that peace. Jesus, let me take that peace you give. My joy I give to you. Take the joy. And now just look in those beautiful eyes and thank him. With a humble heart overflowing with love, I thank you. And I let my love flow to you. And as you send love to Jesus the Christ, feel the connection of the circle. And he says to you, as he looks at his own hands, these are the hands that show God's love. And he touches yours and says, these are the hands that show God's love. Together, we are God's love on earth. Feel the kinship, the peace. Breathe and see a beautiful, beautiful light just showering over you. Beautiful, beautiful light. And know that you are ever connected in the heart of God. And let that light just gently bring your focus back to your own heart, back to your body, back to the chair that you sit on. But before you open your eyes, notice the golden light all around you. I am God's child, and it is my pleasure to share love in this kingdom. We thank you, God. Take a breath. Send your love into the room. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. I am God's loving child. Can you say that?
I am God's loving child.
How does that feel? Just let that vibrate through you all day long. I'm God's loving child. And it is our great honor to be on the earth at this time. It's our great honor. So it is.